What I wanted to share with you this afternoon, I think we all know, and you're probably all here because for a few reasons. You love Jesus, you love his church, you love people, and you would like to see more people find Jesus and join his church. Um, I don't know about you, but when I'm living here in Melbourne, when I'm walking around the shops in the city, whoever it might be, I often think, I wonder if that person knows Jesus. I wonder if that person knows who God is, what God's like. Um, and once you start thinking about that question and looking at people, it's really hard to stop um, because you look at it and you go, well, what about them? What about them? And soon it kind of can become a little bit overwhelming. Like all these people, and maybe they don't know who God is, or they've got this distorted perception of who God is, and then maybe they think 50% of Australians think that Jesus was not a historical person. And so, like, do they know that Jesus was real, or do they think that he's just a name you use when you're upset? Um, and these thoughts kind of keep bumping in and creeping in. And if you have those thoughts as well, then it's good to see you here. What I want to show you is some pictures of some people in that you may know, not know them personally, but you may know people who are like them. So let me introduce you to Shaylee. Shaylee is someone you might see if you are at the shops, wandering around with her friends. Shaylee's 14. She lives with her mum, stepdad, stepsister, and half brother. She likes listening to music, Taylor Swift, Kendrick Lamar. She connects with her friends on 9 different apps. She has 15 social media accounts on 8 different platforms, and she's active on all of them, and she stays up to date on all of them. She basically does tech support for her whole street because they all come and ask her if they need help when their computer's not working or they can't get something to work on their phones. Shaylee's confident. She is worried about the future of the world and where things are going. She thinks church is old-fashioned and irrelevant. Does anyone know a Shaylee? Meet Jimmy. Jimmy is 23. He's born in Melbourne, but his parents are from Hong Kong. Jimmy lives in a share house with 4 other people. He doesn't like 4 of them. He's studying IT. He wants to be a startup tech for a CEO, but he's currently working at Kmart. Favorite drink is an oat chai latte. Jimmy is interested in Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Zoroastrianism. He practices mindfulness. He's got an app for it. He loves getting into nature sometimes. He doesn't trust religious institutions, and he doesn't trust religious leaders either. This is Shane. Shane's 42. He's a chippy. He rents with his partner of 12 years. They've got a 6-year-old daughter. He likes camping. He likes playing his guitar. He thinks he's better than he is on his guitar, but no one tells him that because he loves it so much. He really enjoys smashed avo and brunches. Enjoys an Arabica macchiato on soy. Shane grew up as a Creaster. His family were taking the church at Christmas and Easter. That's about it. So he's not really interested in religion, and he avoids spirituality. You may know a Shane. You may live next to a Shane. This is Neha and Ranjit. They've been married for 12 years. It was an arranged marriage, but things are working out pretty well. They moved from Mumbai about 10 years ago. Pretty switched on guys, and they started up a chain of successful Indian supermarkets. She's pregnant, so they're a bit excited about that. Of course, they love spice chais. They're both vegetarian. They're really engaged in their local community. They are devout Hindus as well. And last person I want to introduce you to, is Ashanti. Ashanti, 65. She's widowed. Her husband passed away quite a while ago. Uh, she immigrated from Ghana 3 years ago with her family. It's pretty tough. She works 3 jobs to support her daughter and her granddaughter. She's really found a home with her local Ghanaian community and really is plugged in there, really enjoys it. She likes chocolate, supports Ghana's produce. Uh, she's deeply religious, and she's a lifelong committed member of the Presbyterian Church of Ghana. None of these people are real. None of the photos are. AI did that for us. But the statistics around them, around each of these people, is real. They come from different generations. They come from different backgrounds. You'll find them all in Melbourne in different places and in Victoria in different places. They have beliefs. They have joys. They have sorrows. They have challenges. And my question is, what will help Shaylee meet Jesus? We see these people walking around our shopping centers. We run into them at work, maybe. What's going to help Shaylee meet Jesus? Keeping in mind, she thinks church is old-fashioned and irrelevant. She's into social media. She thinks that if something isn't online, it's probably not up to date. It's probably not something that's going to interest her. So she probably won't be interested in it. What will work for Shaylee might be digital evangelism. It might be someone sharing their walk with Jesus online, honestly, authentically, regularly, reliably. But will that also help Jimmy? Jimmy or Shane or Neha, Ranjit, Ashanti, will they connect in the same way that Shaylee will? Answer is probably not. These people come from different generations. They have different passions, different interests, different world views, different perspectives, different ways of interacting with the world, different views on religion and organized religion and institution. And so it raises the question, how can we help each of these guys see and meet Jesus? What works for Jimmy, it's probably not going to work for Shaylee. What works for Ashanti, probably not going to work for Shane. And so you're left with this conundrum, with Melbourne being such a big place, with all these people who need to hear about Jesus and at least have the chance to choose. How do we go about that? What do we do? I don't know if anyone bought a car recently? Hey! What'd you get? Polo GTI, nice. What did you do before you bought that car? How did you decide on a Polo? What was your process? Okay. How did you do your research? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Happy? Excellent. Um, has anyone bought a car 30 years ago? All right. What was your experience? What did you go do before you bought that car? What was your process? Kick the tires. Yep. They got air. We're good. You would go to your local car salesman. You would look at things. You would go to the showroom. You'd talk. You might get a test drive. You might talk to other people. You wouldn't go online because there was no online. You couldn't see what people in the US thought about it unless you had some way of getting a paper from the US over here to Australia. The process of that is completely different because the world's changed and the world is different. And so should our approach to mission also be different now than it was 20 years ago? I guess what I'm trying to say is The world has shifted in how it does pretty much everything. That doesn't mean relationships don't matter. That doesn't mean the principles of what we are sharing are no longer there, but it means the packaging and the way it's delivered, it's just got to be different because otherwise Shaylee is going to go, nah, we've got 10 seconds with Shaylee on Instagram. If she doesn't engage with it, she's moved on. That's it. So should we approach mission? Should mission change too? I want to share with you a few different ways I've seen this happen. I was fortunate enough to be in the States last year and visited a guy who I'd heard about, but I hadn't had a chance to actually talk to yet. Um, and he runs a business called Ginger Beard Coffee. It's not Josh. It's not Josh. But tell you what, the guy looks so much like Josh and acts so much like Josh, and he has the same affinity with coffee as Josh does. Um, and Josh isn't even here. Oh, man. Uh, so why he runs this coffee shop, he'd never done it before, but he loves Jesus, and he lives in downtown Tampa. And he thought, how can I meet people so I can share Jesus with them? And he got this idea. Well, people love coffee. I love coffee. Why don't I see if I can connect with people over coffee? So his coffee shop here is actually in the basement of an apartment building, and it's a coffee shop by day and it's a bar by night. I think his friend runs the bar, and what he said was, "Hey, can I use the space? Because it's a great space. It's not being used in the mornings. Can I use it and set up a coffee shop, and people can just come in and have a coffee?" And so they've worked out this arrangement, and um, he is making coffees in the morning. He's got this fancy little machine that you put the coffee beans in, and 45 minutes later, the coffee beans come out, roasted, ready, and he supplies local cafes as well. But Ryan was with me there. We went into his coffee shop, and there were people just sitting around working, chatting. He knows them all. They all know him. He knows about their families, and there's just this really natural but great rapport he's built with the customers. That night, we went to um, his parents' place, and he runs a Bible study group. And at that Bible study group were people we saw in the cafe that morning working. So what he's done is he has this cafe, he builds these relationships, he gets to know these people, and then as he does, he starts sharing his story about Jesus. And then he says, "Hey, we've got a group that just meet together and we talk about Jesus and read the Bible. Do you want to come join us?" And so there was, I didn't have the picture, but there was 12 people sitting around a lounge room, had shared a simple meal, were reading the Bible and discussing it. That night we went, there was a lady there who'd been there for the first time. One of her friends invited her, and she hadn't been around a Bible for, I think it's about 15 years since she was a kid. But she was there, she was engaging, and he's created this tiny little church of people out of a coffee shop. In homes, similar things are happening. I know a couple who really, really love Jesus, and they're like, we've got all these friends who we know, who we love, who we know well, and we would love them to meet Jesus too, but they're just never going to step foot into a church. How can we do this? And so they did some hiking and some walking and invited their friends to join them. And then they said, "Hey, we're doing something in our house where we kind of get together and we talk. It's pretty real. It's pretty open. You don't have to have any background in the Bible or anything, but we'd love you to join us." And so they do, and they talk and they chat, and it's friends from work and it's friends from the neighborhood, and they are able to use their home as a place to let people meet Jesus. I really like playing tennis. And what's really cool is that I can use tennis to help people meet Jesus. I'm also like eating food. If that's you, this is for you. Um, we have at Burwood, we instituted something a few years ago called Burwood Groups, where we basically invite people to lead a group in an area that they're passionate about. So we've got someone who loves doing crafts, and so they lead a craft group. We've got someone who is really passionate about community, connecting with the community, and so they run a community group. We've got someone who is this semester we've got someone who loves tennis, so they're leading a tennis group. It's not me, but I do get to go, which is good fun. Um, we've got a lady who is she's only been recently baptized, but she is really passionate for Jesus, and she's a mum, and she knows, hey, for other mums, this is a tough time to actually connect with God because you are so busy and your kids need you all the time and you're tired and exhausted and all these things are happening. So she's like, I'd love to start a morning group on a Friday for mums who have kids. We're going to get together, we'll have a drink, have a warm drink, have a hot drink, we'll have a coffee, we'll have a hot chocolate, and we'll talk about Jesus and we'll pray together. And so that's what they do. They're meeting this coming Friday for the first time at a coffee shop, I think in Berwick, and they're there to have a space where they can connect with God, but also where they can invite their friends who are also mums, who are also doing life tough, who are also struggling to come. Hey, this is a place where you can be, where you can belong, and we just share and do life. That's ways that people can meet Jesus. They're not difficult. And then there's always our traditional methods of programs and campaigns and door knocking and different ways of doing that. Essentially, there are so many different ways to help people find Jesus. And my challenge to you is, why don't we try any of them? Why don't we try all of them? There's no wrong way to do this. If you're interested in an area, use that passion to bring other people around you, your friends, your neighbors, and hang out. It doesn't have to be a forced push thing. It's just a relaxed, we're here together. And the goal is that what Jesus is doing in us flows out and rubs off onto them. It's not rocket science. I'm not saying anything new. Maybe just reinforcing what you've already heard. But I do want to share with you, I guess, three maybe paradigm shifts and 3 tools which can help us do this maybe better. First one, it's always good to have a strategy, and ask my friends, ask my church. I love a good strategy. I love a good plan. I think it's really important, but prayer trumps strategy every single day. A strategy is great for giving you direction, but it will not inspire you when things are going tough. A strategy is great for giving you a way forward, but it is not going to help people be unlocked by the power of the Holy Spirit. So we need to build a movement where there is prayer. There is prayer, there is prayer, there is prayer. The strategy will support that, but if you have a strategy and no prayer, you're going to be busy. If you have strategy with a lot of prayer, you're going to be busy for the right reasons. So we need to build this movement around whatever we're doing where there are people praying for us. There are people praying with us, where we are engaging in prayer to invite the Holy Spirit to work in us, but also to work in the people that we would love to see meet Jesus. What's going to help do that? There's a really cool thing called a prayer calendar. The most simple idea, but it is really powerful. You grab a piece of paper and you write 1 to 30 down the side. And next to each number, you write a name of somebody who also follows Jesus. Maybe someone in your church, maybe a relative, a friend, someone from a different church, somewhere overseas, wherever. It doesn't really matter. The people that you can then contact, if it's day number 4, 4th day of the month, you contact that person, you say, hey, I'd love to pray for you today. What can I pray for? Now, this does a few things. 1, it gets us into a posture of prayer more regularly. 2, it surprises people. When was the last time you got a phone call from someone saying, "Hey, I just thinking about you today and I wanted to pray for you. What can I pray for?" It's not something that happens often. Um, but you do that and then you pray for them that day. And then the next month, you do it at the same time. Same day of the month, you give them a call. And what happens is they will then say, "Hey, this is awesome. How can I pray for you?" And that's your door opening to say, "Well, hey, I'd love you to pray for Ashanti and Jimmy. Or I'd love you to pray for our group, which is meeting this Thursday, and we've got a few new people coming, and we'd love to see them, yeah, just be open to what God is doing in their lives and have a Holy Spirit moment." So you invite them to pray for you, and as you do this, you're slowly building up this support network and this movement of prayer that's happening in your life and for the people that are in your life. We're doing this with a group that we had, and it's always cool to hear the stories that come back. Uh, so we had a kind of like a disciple making group, and we'd meet fortnightly, and in between, people would make their calls and their prayers. Um, we'd try and do it on the phone with the person. If you can do it in person, face to face, even better. But if not, on the phone. But if not, then text. And sometimes they just don't reply, and you pray for them anyhow. But it's really cool the stories that would come back. I remember the number of times that someone would say, "It's really cool. I prayed for this person," and they're like, "How did you know? How did you know it was today?" I had a friend of mine that I called up, and I just said, "Hey, you know, I want to pray for you today. Is there anything I can pray for?" And this is a pretty blokey bloke. Uh, he works with cattle, um, and yeah, he's not an emotional guy. But he didn't answer for about 5 seconds. I'm like, "That's not normal." And I just like spirit kind of prompted to say, "Hey, just wait." And so I waited a bit more, and I waited a bit more, and it was probably about 20 seconds before he said, "I Interesting you called today. I was really struggling with something, and, yeah, you called on the right at the right time on the right day." And so he shared what it was, and we were able to pray over it. Um, Someone else once, yeah, when we were having these groups, they said um, they called their parents, and for them, they didn't normally pray with their parents, but they did this time, and they said it was kind of awkward, kind of unusual, um, but it opened up an aspect to our relationship that just was not there before. Um, it got our group into the posture of being comfortable to pray with someone else and for someone else, but it also got other people into this space where they were thinking, "Hey, what are you doing? Can we pray for you as well? What can we pray for?" So we need to prioritize prayer over strategy. We still need our strategy, but prayer needs to be the bigger part of it. And this is a cool tool to help with that. A second idea is less projects and more relationships. In our passion to see people know Jesus, it can be really easy to see them as a project. Hey, I need to see this person. Oh, yeah, we've made a little step. Okay, good. They're nearly at that point where we can baptize them, and then I can start the next project. It Even if that's not consciously what we're thinking, sometimes it can feel like that. Instead, what if we prioritize the friendship regardless of where it goes? See, a project's great, but if the project doesn't pan out, you shut it down, you start a new one. Um, but with a friendship, you're less quick to shut that one down, because these are people that you know, that they know you. You love them, and you want to see what's best for them. Plus, you actually like hanging out with them, maybe, and you see that they are a child of God, and they deserve to have community and belonging. So prioritize friendships over projects. But the trick that often comes with that is, well, what if it doesn't go anywhere? I can only have so many friends. What do I do with this? Um, there's no reason we can't be intentional about our friendships, intentional in wanting people to get to know Jesus. So this is another cool tool which I find really helpful in terms of keeping my relationships with people heading in a Jesus direction, if I can put it that way. This is a conversation quadrant. And how it works is top left is casual, top right is meaningful, bottom right is spiritual, and then bottom left is discovery, going in that direction. So this is a way of just tracking, hey, how are our conversations going? Let's say I meet up with Jimmy and I catch up with him. We meet playing tennis, we're in the same comp, and we have a chat one night, and our conversation is pretty casual. It's just we're talking about the game, talking about the weather, we're talking about that area of the court that didn't bounce very well and using it to blame on why we lost the point. We're talking about really simple, everyday things. I come home, I might meet with my small group or my partner, my spouse, or somebody else who is kind of journeying with me in making disciples. And I say, hey, met Jimmy tonight. We had a really good conversation. It was pretty casual, but we got to talk and got to know each other a bit more. I do this. I get a piece of paper and I put the 4 quadrants in and I write Jimmy in that casual. And that then gives me something to pray towards. Hey, God, it's really cool to meet Jimmy. I just pray you'll give me an opportunity to have another chat with him, to connect a bit more, maybe go a bit deeper. Can you work on his heart? Because you love him more than I ever could. And so you pray for him, and maybe in your prayer calendar, you invite someone to pray for him as well. Next time you meet up, you're having a chat, and the game finished a bit earlier this time, so you've got a bit more time, and you're talking with him, and it goes from casual to things that are important to him. He mentions that his mum's not well, and she's battling cancer. And you're like, oh, I'm really sorry, mate. That must be really tough. And he starts opening up about how difficult it is with his mum. You've now moved from casual to something that means a lot, something that's meaningful, something that's you keep a little bit more guarded. You don't share with just everyone, but you share with people who you have some trust with. That gives you something to pray for, something to work towards, keeps you focused. And then next time you get together, you're chatting, and this might be a few months down the track. With most Australians, it's like 6 to 12 months down the track at least. And you start talking about things of the heart. Mum passes away. You go to the funeral, and you start saying, where is she? Like, what happens? Why does God allow this? Like, if this God you believe in is so good, why does he let this stuff happen? That's a spiritual conversation. And you're able to talk with him at that level where he is open, he is willing, and he's asking some questions. That's also maybe an opportunity for you to move into discovery. And discovery is where you're able to share your story with Jesus and say, would you like to know more? It's pretty simple. It's not complicated. But what it does is it keeps us focused. It keeps our friendships, not projects, but allows us to still keep it Jesus focused and centered towards helping this person see who Jesus is. Third thing I want to share with you is we often see our programs as disciple making. Come to church, be made into a disciple. Sometimes, yes. Most times, probably not. So we need to prioritize disciple making over the programs that we run. What is that? What's the tool for that one? I want to suggest it's you guys. You're the ones who are involved in your local church. You're involved in Pathfinders, Adventurers. You're involved in different aspects of what's going on in your local church community. And this is why I want to suggest it to you. There are 2.9 million non-Christians in Melbourne. This is just Greater Melbourne. I didn't do Victoria-wide. Our conference does some great things, and our churches do some great things. How many baptisms do you think we have each year in Victoria? Any guesses? Under 1,000? Well under 1,000? Any other takers? 146. I like specificity. Any advances on 146? 197? 197 going once, 197 going twice. In the past 10 years, on average, 208. You doing the math? If we were to now, okay, we're talking baptism, but just bear with me on the point. To reach 1% of Melbourne, to see 1% of Melbourne baptized, 140 years. To see all of Melbourne baptized, I think it was 13,942 years. By which time our population would be either dead or very, very, very large. So you can see the challenge we've got. And that's where I think the tool that you guys have at your disposal is leverage. We can't do everything. You can't do everything. You're already busy people. But what we can do is take the programs that we're currently using, the programs that we're currently running, and leverage them for the end of disciple making. So it's not just 140 churches doing the work. It's not just 80 pastors doing the work. It's all the people who are attending your community, your church, who are part of your group, your pathfinders, your adventurers. They are equipped to be able to go and be the ones who are sharing Jesus with people. The future of the church, I think, is adapting and leveraging what we currently have, what we currently do, towards the end of making disciples and equipping them to go and make disciples. Like I said, this is nothing new. This is 2,000 years old, but it's nice to be reminded. So I wonder what it would be like if every Pathfinder club, every adventurer club, every church, every school, every aged care facility, every business owner, every community, and someone who's involved in the community, if they were equipped to be disciple makers. And as they did that, they then equipped each person in our groups, clubs, churches, to then go and make disciples who also make disciples. That's going to bring the 108 years down to a much shorter amount of time, hopefully. But this is not about necessarily changing what we currently do. It's about adapting what we currently do so that it's towards the end of making disciples.